All right, so this next topic is definitely an interesting one. I feel like this is. I didn't know that there's so much of this going on in Facebook, but go ahead and
Yeah,
let's jump
yeah.
in.
I found this article today and really interesting. Facebook says it can ID deepfakes and the models used to make them. So they're working with Michigan State University on software that allows them to determine whether or not an image has been edited with AI software, whether it's a deep fake or not, as well as actually being able to identify the type of AI, the model used to actually generate this deep fake. Um, and to do this, there's two major types of deepfakes that exist in the market right now. There's the wholly generated by AI, so the entire thing is a deepfake generated from, it's a video or an animation of kinds that looks like real life, and it's completely, it doesn't have any basis in reality. Like, it never happened at all. The whole thing has been doctored, the whole thing has been manufactured. And then there's the using AI to manipulate authentic media. So this is post production. So taking stuff, taking images, taking events, and then kind of adjusting the way things were said or things happened through this deepfake technology to make it look like people were saying or doing things that they weren't saying. So you're manipulating something that already exists, leveraging data that's already there. And to date, Facebook says it has collected and cataloged 100 different deepfake models so far.
Models.
Um, yeah, so these are the models used to generate, because you can go
Wow.
and you can use this stuff for free. You can use Fake App or Face Swap. These are applications that you can get on your phone for free, and you can generate this stuff. So it's not like super crazy technology, but people are evolving it, people are using it, and with the how much of this stuff is on the internet, it's definitely dangerous for social media companies or people that show news, because they need to be able to filter what's real and what's not. And they already have a hard time doing that. Now you have videos that look real. There was, I think, a story, Tom Cruise or something, they had a TikTok deep fake of Tom Cruise saying something, and it had like 50 million views, and people were arguing over whether or not it was real. It wasn't real. It was a deep fake, but it looked so real that people thought, how can that be fake? How can that not be him saying or doing? I didn't watch it, but saying or doing whatever it is he's doing. So definitely very interesting. Deep fakes are some big new tech that's coming out. So be on the lookout. Never, trust none of what you hear and only half what you see. That's ever more true now today, because you can even be looking at something that's not real. So definitely be cautious, but that, just as much as this stuff is on the rise, companies are starting to step up, including cybersecurity in general. So people are starting to see these trends and get out ahead of it and say, okay, we need to do something about this. We need to understand this, because if we let it grow, it can become a threat that, is significant down the line. Right now it seems to be pretty small and harmless, but if you can fake videos of people saying and doing things, there's so many applications that can be used for, maliciously, even if not being maliciously now. So,
I mean, I feel like if
but definitely very,
Facebook's
very interesting.
talking about it, then it's definitely way past the
Well,
point
Facebook,
of people using it maliciously.
well, and maybe, but it could just be the fact that people are pumping these out to Facebook, and they're trying to. It might not even be malicious. It might just be, white lies and harmless lies. But Facebook tries to keep the news as they try not to let anything that's not real in there. And deep fakes are themselves, they're not real. So, how does that work when you're saying, okay, we take down fake accounts, we take down fake posts, we take down, these robo-generated content. Well, what about AI-generated deep fake? Well, how does that fall into your filtering algorithm? How do you deal with that, right? And do you just stop all of them? Do you just figure out to stop some of them? How do you stop some of them? Do you have to watch them and see if they're harmless or not? So I don't know how that really works.
Yeah, NeimanLab.org just did a statistic on 47%, 48 to 47% of people are deceived by these deep fakes outright. So nearly half the population gets deceived right off the bat, and
and
they're
I
getting better.
But and I think that because we have the dependence on media, because we spend so much time on the internet, those who do, I think, are much more susceptible to believing in these things, because they get sucked into these, rabbit holes, of the internet. But it's not necessarily real. Just because it's on the internet, it doesn't mean shit. It doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it's true. You have to verify it. You have to understand it. So, I worry sometimes that we have a large generation, especially of young people that grow up with technology. I didn't have an internet, and I wasn't able to play Xbox Online until I was in like my sophomore, junior of high school. And I have students that I've taught that were 7, 8 years old, and they're hanging out with with iPads, and they're connected to the internet, and they're on YouTube, and they've got a social media profile, and so and they're going to be more susceptible to seeing this stuff too, because they're not going to be as well versed in the topic. So they're going to see something, and they might see it for the first time, and be like, oh, "That's real. That's what I saw that. That must be true," because they've never seen the alternative. They don't really understand how it works. They don't have enough information to be able to to look into that and say, "I don't think that's real." So
I wonder if there are going to come about sites that have an age limit for sites, and if that's going to be like a next step for children to ensure that only they interact with children.
Well, we have like on YouTube when we post videos, it says, is this made for children? Yes or no. Parental guidance and all that. You can even lock people out in Google. You can have computers that have parental controls in their firewalls. So there's ways to do that. I imagine sites will do that as well. That's how much burden is that on the people who make the websites, right? How much burden? Because also when it comes to social media, they're not really supposed to be the facilitators of filtering. They're not supposed to be the thought police. They're just supposed to be open source platforms. And for one reason or the other, someone's upset about this, someone's like that. They don't like this point of view. That it just gets into this world of now, Facebook has a council of people that get to judge whether or not your comments deem you worthy of being banned for a period of time. So I imagine that censorship is seeming to become a tool that they're using, but at the same time, I don't think that's right necessarily. But I also don't think that people getting to see deepfakes is safe. But to some degree, right, depending on what the content is. But at the same time, how much burden is it on the people posting content? But how much burden is it also on the individuals seeing content? Like, you can't complain. It's like, I saw that on the internet and it lied to me, so I'm not liable. I understand. If you read something in a book and then did something, would you go and sue the publisher? No. You saw it on the internet, so now it's the internet's job to make sure that you don't see lies. It's your job to do your due diligence. If you go on the internet and you see one thing and you're like, that's the answer, well, shame on you. And if you're wrong and your life is affected adversely, shame on you. That's your fault. That's no one's fault. It's not Mark Zuckerberg's fault. Okay, that's not Jeff Bezos' fault. That's not anyone's fault. That's your fault. You choose to receive information, then you choose how to act on it. If you can't, if you don't have the ability to be able to do that due diligence, maybe you shouldn't be browsing those topics, right? And a lot of media preys on that of like, you're not going to verify anything. You're just going to see this. You're going to be wowed by this. You're going to be emotionally tied into this. Do your homework, guys. Everybody, do your homework, and these things won't be as dangerous to us, because you'll be able to understand like that isn't real, or that is real, or that's real data, or that's fake data.
Social media has their hands tied, and they're going to be in for a very long battle as all this technology just becomes more prevalent.
I mean, anytime Facebook tries to put their foot down on censoring, I feel like this falls into the line of censoring. What media and or outlet is a deep fake? I mean, who's to challenge what's a deep fake or not, in the sense of, like, let's say Facebook does, deem a video, hey, this is a deep fake, but it really isn't, and they just keep removing your videos. How exactly are you,
Well, that's the thing too. Like, they have appeals boards, but I don't like any of that. It's like you're creating your own little government.
Exactly.
You're creating your own court system. You're creating your little empire. And when you think about it, companies are nothing more than their own little empires. They have a hierarchy. They have enforcement. They have rules. They have laws. They have protections. They can make partnerships with other companies. They have certain amounts of assets they can use and stake on their own. So, that's really what they are. It's just they're in the modern world. And, when you have someone like this is supposed to be a platform for free speech. I mean, I don't have any social media like that anymore. And that's partly for this reason. You know what I mean? Like, the world is just getting ridiculous. Like, you should be able to share your opinions without persecution. And it should be the thought of free flow of thought. And if there's fake information on there, well, you should do your own homework. I've never believed that it's the job of the internet to make sure that you get the right information. When you're writing papers and going to high school, they don't look at Wikipedia, don't cheat. You can't blame the internet if you get a wrong on your paper. They don't accept that. That's unacceptable, because you're the one that has to do the action. You're the one receiving the information. You're the one that decides what to do with it. So pay attention and just,
Flip side, can you blame the news when they give false information?
Ooh.
I want to say that there should be a journalistic standard there, but you have to understand that most of these media stations are just mouthpieces. They're nothing more than tools. They're not journalists. They're not looking for recognition. They're just playing a game for their base. They're aligned on one side. They're going to take stories and spin it. I think there should be a standard for media companies, but at the same time, what is a media company? It's just a company. It needs to make more money than it spends, or it doesn't exist. Has it make more money? Ad revenue. How do you make money on ads? Viewers. How do you keep viewers? You have to keep it interesting and lively, which means you can't just report on the news every day. You have to make it interesting. You have to spin it. You have to bend it. You have to make it fit for the statistical, majority of your viewership to keep those core viewers, to keep your business.
Should there be an entity to overwatch the news and the mainstream news, or should we hand it off to the government to create an entity of its own for the mainstream news?
I think people need to stop becoming complacent and comfortable and saying, I only need one news source. I think we need to, because if we stand up and say, to hell with this, we're going to find our information on our own, we're going to boycott this, these companies will have to change their tune or they're not going to survive. Because you can't leave it to big government, because big government interacting with business, that's the other problem too. We don't want too big of a government. We don't want to give government the ability to do censorship, because that is just more so than it already has. That's insane. We don't want that. So that's what the goal shouldn't be, to censor people. The goal should be, we as the people need to break free. The media companies do this because they know it works. Well, the only reason they do it is because it does work. If it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. And I think that there is some burden on us, because I think as citizens, as people, we spend a lot of time saying, we're bigger and more powerful, so it's your job to fix the problem. But we are big as a unit, and we as individuals make decisions, and we can exert as much power as we can, and we should do that. We should wake up and realize that, you know what, like, no one's gonna make them follow any specific rules. That's politics, that's the media, that's life. It's just full of lies and nonsense. The world is filled with liars, cheaters, and thieves. It's just the way the world works. It's human nature playing the system. So we have to be smart enough to recognize that and stand up and say, I'm done. I'm done watching this crap. I want to find it out for myself. I want to learn the information in my own decisions, not watch something that's going to flavor my decisions for me and tell me what I should think or suggest or coerce my way of thinking. So,
sounds good. I feel like we could just go on and on this topic